Unfiltered Creative with Désiré Mirelux.
Helping people to make sure their ideal client avatars sit up and take notice of their brand, their service, their product, and themselves online now.
You're listening to the Entrepreneur Spotlight. But before we get into it, I just wanted to thank you for following me into this tilted rabbit hole where we learn about the entrepreneur journey and all the magnificent and terrifying things that come with it. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to increase your brand exposure, network internationally, and gain insights from our team of industry leaders, then follow the breadcrumbs in the show notes to the LinkedIn SME Shoutout Hour group. That will give you instant access to a bunch of resources and to the incredibly knowledgeable team, many of whom are guests on this podcast. But it will also give you access to our weekly live show, the SME Shoutout Hour, where you can jump in and shout out your business to the hundreds of weekly listeners. And you're welcome to come along every single week. It's free brand awareness and exposure, and you get to meet some really cool people on the show. And if you have a branding question, or you just want to have your business idea, website, or branding evaluated by the consultants who are live, just join the conversation. It's such incredible value, and you don't have to pay a penny for it.
Now it's time. Let's jump straight into the rabbit hole. Gareth, thank you for coming on the show. How are you feeling today?
Hello. Welcome. I feel very welcome. I'm glad to be here. I was actually bowled over when you actually asked me to be a part of it. And I'm only too pleased to share what little knowledge I have with anyone who wants to listen. It's some of it's relevant. Occasionally it'll be irrelevant, but I hope to be able to make a difference.
Okay, just to start us off, tell us about your company and what you guys do.
Right. Well, my company's called Many Purple Hats. This is just one of them. What we're about is helping people to make sure their ideal client avatars sit up and take notice of their brand, their service, their product, and themselves online, specifically on LinkedIn now, not in 5 months' time, not in 2 years' time, but as quickly as you can. And there are no real shortcuts on LinkedIn, but it's about preparing the way and revealing some of that which is hidden, not just about your company, but about yourself. It's an old adage, I think. People buy from people. And unless they understand where the value is in you, they won't see you as a safe pair of hands to do business with. So even if you're a multinational, millionaire, bringing in quadrillions of business on a daily basis, they still need to know what drives you and why it is you continue to push forward. I think that's very important. So therefore, my adage always is personal content, but business intent. If that makes sense.
I like that.
Because you can take any personal post on LinkedIn. I'm going to dive in now. We're going to dive in. We're diving in. I've got. Hang on.
How long have you been in business for?
Right. I've been in business for 4 months.
You've been doing it a lot longer than that, though.
Well, kind of. Look, the story is this, and I use this story. This is going to sound partially negative, but it's got a real. I know it's early on to get negative. But we're gonna
there are negatives and positives in the entrepreneur journey. So
right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the 4 years which I co-created a company called Purple Fedora. Now this is a purple fedora, so it was always about the hat. By the way, purple is not my favorite color. Blue is my favorite color, or yellow. They're interchangeable as far as goes. The opposite end of the same color wheel. But my wife's favorite color is purple, and I pretty much do everything in her honor. So that's my deal. Well,
that's so sweet.
It was something's precious. You got to hang on to it,
Oh, that's adorable.
Well, every time she says I've done well, this is how I feel. Thank you. So the important thing is to note that everything that is negative can actually have some secret positives to it. So when I tell you this, this little story, you may think, oh, the poor man, he was so beleaguered. No, I learned a lot, and also it's given me the boost upwards. So I set up the company after a 10 years friendship with a gentleman. I set up this company with him to fill a hole that I saw. That is to say, if anybody's ever been on LinkedIn for more than 5 minutes, and if you ever bother reading the terms of service, most people don't. In the terms of service, in section 8, in fact, it says, thou shalt not, under pain of death, use any form of LinkedIn automation. Don't use any automation, because if we catch you doing it, we'll cut you off at the knees. And what I mean by that is I'll sanction you. And the sanction may be for a day or a week, or it might be forever. Remember, LinkedIn is a virtual monopoly. I know I'm making you shake in your boots. No. What I'm saying is...
That's crazy. I don't know every social media expert out there uses a social media scheduling tool.
Yeah. I wouldn't do that on LinkedIn, especially not now that they're rolling out their own scheduling tool. LinkedIn's whole deal has always been keep them on the site for as long as possible. Right? And let's jump in there with bits of knowledge. If you use a link that takes you out of sight within your post, it will downgrade the aperture by anything up to 40%, between 20 and 40%, just by having the external link in there. Don't worry, all hope is not lost. I have a trick, a way around it. So guess what? It only tests for that for the first 10 minutes. So what you do is you put the post in there, you wait 10 minutes, and then you put the link within the post. So you go and edit the post.
So they don't just go back and double check it?
No, it's only checked for the first 10 minutes. I mean, they might change that. So watch this space. I do keep testing this, but it's noticeable. So that's the first thing. But secondly, if you've put a post up on LinkedIn, I know we're jumping straight into the knowledge. I haven't finished my story yet. I will get to the story, I promise. So if you put a post up there and notice there's a spelling mistake in there, what's the first thing you do?
You edit it.
No! Not for the first 10 minutes. All right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Otherwise, there you go. You failed. So what you've got to do instead is after 10 minutes, you edit it and then you change the spelling mistake. Now, here's another little trick before I get back to my story. When you've made your post and you've put the post out there and you realize that you shouldn't put the link in the post, where do you put the link?
In the comments?
No! Because if you can't be the first person to comment on your post, it needs to be somebody else. So one of the things I did is I developed a relationship with my clients. So if I post something, they post the first comment, and then I can write anything I want in there. But then again, you don't need to put links into the comments because it will be in the post anyway. Here's another thing.
You just have to remember to jump in and edit it.
Yeah, that's right. So all I would say is this. Most people love the old YouTube. Oh, the YouTube is lovely. Does all the subtitling for you. Amazing. Great. Problem is, LinkedIn hates YouTube. They loathe it. Now, we need to remember who LinkedIn is owned by. Microsoft. Hang on. We need that. So what we need to do is realize that because Microsoft own it, they don't like it. So if you put a link to it, even if it's after the 10 minutes and it's to YouTube, they downgrade 12% your aperture. That's the number of people that your post will spread to.
Right.
Guess what? Who they love? Vimeo. They love Vimeo.
Okay.
They have a sort of relationship. So it will still downgrade your post, but only by like 1 or 2%. So if you really have a video series and you want it to be hosted somewhere else other than yourself, or use Vimeo.
Okay.
There you go. Now go back to the story. So I built this company. It never gets any better than this. I built this company some 4 and a bit years ago with my friend, and we were running it. And unfortunately, things became difficult between us, and I was subject to what can only be described as workplace bullying. And I decided I would not put up with this anymore. It took a long while for me to get there, because you keep wanting your friend to see the way themselves.
Yeah.
It was happening to other people, but when it spread towards me and it started happening to me, that's when I realized writing was not just on the wall, but the door was firmly open. I needed to get walking through it. So I created a new company called Many Purple Hats. And I did that in October last year, but November was when it really came alive. And of course, I started again from scratch with 0 clients, and I still had my credibility, but that was it. Luckily, we've just hit the 24th client as of this morning. So I'm very proud to say we are not just a going concern. But yeah, I think, I get myself, why aren't we at 40? Why aren't we at 50 clients? And then I think back, actually, it's only been 4 months. Come on, give yourself a break.
Yeah. But it takes time.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, when we hit 50, I will be celebrating. Well,
no, we'll do an episode. We'll definitely be doing an episode and talking about your journey from 0 to 50. Definitely.
But let me take the positive out of that, because that was a negative, toxic situation.
Oh, it was, but you took the strength. It took strength for you to be able to walk away from that, especially because you took time and to build it.
It was my wife that gave me the extra impetus, because part of me wanted to try and sit it through it and make it better and work on it from the inside out and all the rest of it. But she said, it's actually ruining you slowly. You're being eaten up by it, and it's actually turning you into a person you don't want to be. So you need to take this and make the decision and leave this thing and move on and create something better. So I did, and I'm very proud of that. But I did something extra. I thought, if I could turn this into a teaching exercise so that other people could learn from this, that would be cool. So if anybody who wants to finds me on LinkedIn, goes to my featured section. There's a section of, and I'll talk about the featured section in a minute.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about creator mode, which I'm sure you know about, Désiré, but I want to talk to you about what it can be used for and how to make a difference using it. But in creator mode, once you've switched it on, if everybody wants to know how to switch it on, go to resources. In their profile, there's a toggle button there, and you toggle it to 1. Then it asks you about which hashtags best describe your purpose. Yeah. So put 5, put them in there. Now, let's say you're now in creator mode. You've got now full control over the featured section. And in the featured section are posts that you think are representative. Now, I always recommend the first 3, because it shows the first 3. 3 is the magic number on LinkedIn. Loves threes. It shows 3 recommendations. It only shows the first 3. 3 is important.
I think 3 is a magic number everywhere. I mean, even in my own services, I've got.
Well, I know that
3
humans
price
points. If you ask someone to repeat you a whole bunch of numbers, and there's let's say a 20 or 30 of them, they'll tend to repeat them to you in groups of 3 or groups of 4. It's kind of like it's sort of magical that way. So going back to it, so the first 3 should be ones that are representative of what you stand for. And I recommend one should be about a business. Another one should be something about ethics, maybe. Another one should be like a purpose-driven one. So if you scroll along there, you'll find one of them has the big graphic that says bully. And inside the word bully, it's got all different words that describe what a bully can be. Now, I wrote this post and posted it at 2:00 on a Sunday, at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh,
the most unpopular time on LinkedIn to put out a post. And I did it to prove a point. Because often people talk about engagement pods, and we'll cover that a bit later as well, about the benefits of them and why people use them. And they do have a purpose, but some people overuse them. So they're using them all the time. So they no longer understand what reality is because they're always being artificially pushed along. And I said, I bet you I can get a post to have many comments on it. And as you know, anything above about 30 comments is almost considered to be viral on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn, yeah.
Absolutely. And I got to 60 comments in one day on this post.
Wow.
Now, one of the things of making a post that's going to grab that kind of attention is to pick a topic that is in the public eye. So workplace bullying, always a popular one. Okay, so we always knew we were going to get some level of connection. The next thing is you need to find a copyright-free graphic, and it needs to be copyright-free because LinkedIn spot copyrighted objects and downgrade your post if it finds them. So it needs to be copyright-free. So I spent a long time hunting for a copyright-free graphic, which I did. Then you need to make sure that the way in which you structure your post, especially if you're going to have a lot of information in it, is a series of short paragraphs. Humans tend to not read more. I think this is not, I wouldn't say it's a golden rule, but I think people should make peace with this. No matter how beautifully constructed your prose is, no matter how well thought out or well intentioned it may be, people don't tend to read more than one paragraph of anything, at least not in the first stray. So what you have to do, if you want them to read multiple paragraphs, is make sure that the last line of each paragraph has push words in it. That's words which are dynamic, eye-grabbing, attention-grabbing, and also ones that almost created a mini cliffhanger. So they're thinking... Yeah,
but it's the same in journalism as well. They tell you when you're writing news, you put all of the information in your first paragraph.
Well...
Everything you need to know needs to be in that first paragraph.
Well, no, I don't do that.
Well, that's in news.
I put a thing that's going to grab you by the what's-it.
The lead.
And then lead you down to the next one. And then what I do is the last paragraph is the resolver. This is the one that makes you think, oh, wow, you've put me through the mill, but this is the one that's going to make, it's like a balm on your forehead. It's going to make you feel, okay, it all turned out nice again, which if you read mine, it does. And then... you tag in only people who are going to react within a fairly short period of time, and don't tag more than, say, 10 or so. If you feel that you need to tag a load more, tag them in a comment further down. Want somebody else.
Oh, that was a mistake I've made recently. I tagged about 15 or 20 odd people in a particular post, but I wanted those people to kind of be tagged anyway. But
first of all, the first rule of etiquette on LinkedIn is people who are going to be tagged in posts should know they're going to be tagged in on posts. If you tag them in without any told them first.
randomly tagging.
You wouldn't believe how many people do that, Désiré.
I know, that's why I'm saying it. I do it.
It's not a good practice. Not a good practice. But once you've done that, once you've done that, underneath it, ask 2 questions.
Okay.
1 closed question, 1 open question. Why a closed question, Gareth? Well, I know everybody says ask open questions, and that's really cool, but people often find it quite difficult to produce something from nothing. And asking an open question is like presenting an artist with a blank piece of paper and saying, draw. So with a closed question, which is a binary thing with a yes or no, people find it so easy to answer. So ask them an easy to answer binary question. And then once they're now in the mode, I can answer a question now, they're far more likely to answer the second question, which is the open question. Underneath it, put hashtags, no more than 10. I always go for about 5 or 6, and make sure you've identified which hashtags get a larger response. And what I mean by that are well attended. So for instance, I tend to use hashtag support almost all the time. Hashtag blessed. That's a good one. Hashtag sales. Very well attended. But also put in a hashtag of your own. Now, not many people will be under that, but if you put it on everything and gradually encourage people to start following that hashtag, that's how you build your tribe. And then what I would say is your reactions to other people's comments. Sorry.
For that last hashtag, your personal one, right? Should it be like your brand name? So for instance, mine would probably be Tilt Creative.
It could be. It could be your personal hashtag. Désiré Speaks or something.
Désiré is awesome.
Well, that's true as well. Yeah, all I would say, even if she is at the behest of a parrot, let's not go there. But we know who's boss. So
the parrot.
Yeah, it's the parrot, of course. No. All I would say is you've got to make it so that when they finish this ordeal of reading through this tumult, this series of malevolences, that it's all finishes up, tied with a bow, that they feel that they're energized. You've got to get them, you've got to tee them up to want to make a comment, because there's no point in doing this just for likes. You need the comments. You need the dialogue starters. And then this is the next tip. When people are saying a comment, you need to respond to that comment in good time, within 90 minutes of the comment being put, and you need to tag them into your response. So literally go @ their name, even though you're responding, put it in there, because they'll get a pulse through and it'll help the algorithm too. And then respond to it without saying far more than just nice post. It needs to be somewhat descriptive of why you're saying what you're saying. So if anyone wants to go look there, it's literally on there. It's there as a teaching. It was cathartic for me because it describes the pitfalls without going into detail. I'm not getting gruesome details, but all I was trying to do is give people hope that even if you feel like you're pushed into a corner, there is a way forward. And the positive thing that's come out of it is I've built something new. It's working well. And more importantly, I ended up with a good teaching post.
That's amazing. That's amazing. No, honestly, this is the true essence of the entrepreneur journey that I'm always talking about. I mean, it's never straightforward. It's never something that's just all positive or all roses that you see. I mean, my own journey has a lot of dark parts and dark bits to it, and it's in that darkness that I found that my light, and it's pushed me beyond kind of it's pushed me beyond my own boundaries, and it's pushed me to grow. And I think that's really, really important as well. And we do need to kind of talk about these kind of experiences, because there are people out there who are going through this and they think that they're the only one going through it. And that's not true, because we're all going through it. We're all in the same boat. So
you asked me originally what Many Purple Hats provides. So I sort of took some notes. I'm not going to read them to you directly, but my team have 5 parallel processes, really.
Right.
It's a 3 to 6 month engagement strategy. And that includes post articles, graphics, videos, animations, copyright for music, carousels, the whole lot.
Yeah.
That runs in parallel with data mining. And the data mining we do is bound by searches, not just purely looking for a company that fits a certain schema, but also looking at their content. So we search through the content, looking for times they've mentioned the topic you want them to be interested. So I've got hiccups.
Oh.
Hang on, I'm going to take a drink. And the point is that they're talking about the fact they're finding it difficult to use a CRM, or that if only they could find a way forward. That's almost a point to try and include them in a group where they talk about CRMs, to tag them into a post where they're talking about how you can survive the deadly CRM, Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the data mining. We don't just data mine from LinkedIn, we data mine from Companies House, from their own company, the company website, and from Google. So we end up with an overall, effectively a spreadsheet full of parallel, publicly facing information, which helps us later on, obviously. I run monthly LinkedIn effectiveness masterclasses.
Yeah.
I also do LinkedIn live podcasting. Anybody who follows me at all knows I do about 5 or 6 of those a week, and they tend to they're all my clients, but we also help shine a spotlight on certain elements of what those clients are doing.
Yeah.
And also I run my Mad Hatters Lounge, which is a kind of like a get together group on a Friday afternoon with a no pitch guarantee. What we do is we run AQA, which is all questions answered. So we get some specialists in, and I say to people, right, I'll create you some rooms if you fancy. I don't care. You could do it here if you want. But what I want you to do is ask the questions that you always wanted to ask, but never had either the balls, the time, or the money to ask it. They're right in front of you. They're waiting to answer them. And that's what we do. And we're doing that monthly. But there was one other thing you asked, which I thought was really interesting, which was the hardest thing about entrepreneurship. That really struck me.
I just wanted to take a moment to shout out my business here, Tilt Creative, which has enabled me to do amazing work and gives my career a platform that enriches me. Tilt Creative is a strategic brand development consultancy providing consulting and coaching to entrepreneurs who are just getting started, small businesses who want to grow to the medium-sized sector, and large corporations that need to deepen the connection with their customers to strengthen their competitive edge. And with our framework, you can increase your revenue by 20% in 12 months. Check out the website and book a free, no obligation, 15-minute consultation. And we can guide you to the service that best suits your needs. Link is in the show notes. And now back to the show.
The hardest thing about entrepreneurship, that really struck me. Because what do you think is the hardest thing about entrepreneurship? I'm going to throw the ball back at you, Désiré.
I think it's the loneliness of entrepreneurship. That's the hardest for me. I mean, I've got a lot of people around me, and I've got a lot of friends, but most of them don't get it. They don't understand because none of them are entrepreneurs as well. And
do you not have any entrepreneur friends?
No, I do. Yeah, I have got a few. What I have done is I've created a small network, and we all kind of talk to each other, and it's amazing because we're able to kind of support each other in that way. But I do hear a lot of people talking about it. A lot of people talking about the loneliness of being a CEO or being an entrepreneur because other people just don't get it unless you are there and you're doing it yourself. Then that's probably, I think, the hardest part of it. So
has that been the hardest part for you?
That has definitely been.
The feeling that you couldn't talk to your family and your friends because they just wouldn't get it.
Well, I can talk to them, but they just listen and they just kind of nod.
Yeah. But it's like when
it's just like they just go glassy-eyed, and it's just like, well.
I talked to my wife about marketing issues and how frustrated I am with this or that, and she just nods her head like that, and I know that she doesn't really latch on. And why should she?
Yeah.
She's in the medical space. She doesn't really get this. For me, most people that know me know that I'm autistic. I'm on the spectrum, and I'm a mess of coping strategies. I've learned how to talk to other humans. It's taken a long time. Yeah. My first career was as a musician, and I've always retained that. I'm a drummer, and I was in a touring rock band. But when I came back from that, I used to hide behind walls of drums and cymbals. You see, that was my way of hiding in a way. And when I came back, I became I became a Cisco engineer over a period of time, and I used to hide in computer rooms,
server rooms.
Yeah, absolutely, sitting there with my duffel coat on and my laptop and my beanie hat on, and you know, I'd see the security in the morning and perhaps my manager in mid-afternoon and maybe one of the people I was working with, and then I'd go home, and that would be my lot. So I know people think that I'm a natural bon vivant and mix and match with people, but truthfully, originally it couldn't be further away from that. So to answer the question, what's been the hardest thing about entrepreneurship for me? It's how to use my autistic traits to facilitate better communication. One of the benefits, one of the things that used to be a complete nightmare for me is I don't understand facial expressions. I find body language confusing. I find uses of English confusing, you know, with the double meanings, and I can be a literalist. And you say, well, go jump off a bridge. You know, part of my mind, why should you want me to jump off a bridge for? You know, I take things literally. And how could I turn this to my best advantage? Well, the first thing I do in any business relationship is I say, look, I am autistic. I don't understand all these things. And rather than driving myself mad, I've taken the executive decision to ignore the whole bloody lot.
That's the best way, though.
Well, yeah, but if I tell them, I say, I'm actually going to, if I hear something like that, rather than going nuts, well, I will instead say, I ignore it. I'm just going to plow through. Now, this means I sometimes come off as over talkative, not respecting people's verbal boundaries, butting in, occasionally narcissistic. But what I do fervently believe that this enables me to do is always join the distance between two dots with a straight line. You see what I mean? I cut straight through because it's not I'm ignoring the bullshit. Most of the time, I would recognize that it's there. I've just literally just gone, let's do this now.
But that's efficient.
It can be very efficient.
It's efficient. I'm not autistic, but I do exactly the same. I'm incredibly direct, and a lot of people do not like it. But it's just because I just can't be bothered with all of it. It's just get from place A to B now. Let's go. Well, I am incredibly impatient as an individual, though, because I'm like, right, cool, let's go. I'm very action based. I don't like spending a lot of time talking about stuff. It just frustrates me. So I'm like, right, cool, let's actually roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty. Let's see how this goes. So yeah, that's me. But honestly, it's a lot more efficient and effective if you just kind of not have to deal with all the extra, BS in it.
No, I just go, sod that. I'm going to push forward and we're going to communicate and get things done. Otherwise, you get mired down. I don't do small talk in the same way. I get extremely bored very quickly. And I need stimulation. And the only way I can get stimulation, I think, is if I'm doing something to help. Yeah. So I recently had this very frank conversation with one of my clients, which went something along the lines of, you're not helping me to help you. I need more ideas towards content. I need you to explain to me what it is you want to affect these people with, what emotion you need them to feel when they read your stuff, when they see your videos, when they flick through your carousels. What is it you want to do? And he went, oh, Gareth, okay, let's do this then. I want to energize people. I know I can do it.
Well, we're doing it. We're doing it. We do it every week on the show. So, that's what we do. That's what we do. We do it and we use our superpowers to, help people. Oh, I've just realized that the light's coming in there. It's very bright.
Well, okay. You look very bright.
The sun's just decided to come out and just do the most. That's all right.
It's cool. You did ask me a bunch of questions up front.
Yes, I did.
There was a couple of things that got me. Things you don't know about me. I have a number of other businesses as well. So the ones I don't really talk much about. When I do voiceover work for people on occasion, I've been doing a couple of books, some anthologies of poetry, and even a whole bunch of adverts. But the other areas are, of course, my music. My band, Encrypted Love, has just released its first album, which was only 4 weeks ago, so it's still in the early stages. The album's called Red. If anybody looks up Encrypted Love as encrypted, the way you spell encrypted, as in...
I'll add it into the show notes. Just send me the link.
If you look on any way you fancy getting your music from, Spotify or Apple Music or iTunes, it's all there. Awesome. It'd be lovely if you could have a listen to that. Each track recorded in one take, live in a live studio. So we didn't re-edit it, anything, but we've all been musicians for an awful long period of time. There's 3 of us. But the other thing is another business I run is called Purple Bot. Our strapline is, let us show you our shiny purple bot. Purple Bot is chatbots for websites or for WhatsApp. I don't know what you're laughing at, but WhatsApp or for Messenger.
Your shiny purple bot.
Oh, well, everybody needs to have a purple bot. So if you fancy learning more about it, purple-bot.com. You can learn more about it there. Another company I formed, and this is only 5 months ago, Smart Mycelium Limited. Now,
okay, what do you guys do?
Yes, well, mushrooms. Do mushrooms mean anything? Not those kind of mushrooms. Mushrooms, no. Well, exactly. Mycelium is the stuff that comes before mushrooms, the precursor. You have to treat it a little bit more like an animal than a plant. It actually will learn by its mistakes. It will seek out, test, and then withdraw, and then seek out elsewhere. But it has a number of marvelous properties. One is it will grow around almost any shape, and once grown, if you cook it in a certain way, which is part of our IP, I'm not going to give full details, you can turn it into solid objects. And because the process of growing mycelium, it acts as a carbon sink. So literally it takes carbon out of the atmosphere in a permanent way. And then later on down the line, let's say once it's broken or not useful anymore, you can literally break it up and plow it into the soil. It's organic. Next purpose is we are using it to create sound deadening. So we can create sheets of it, which acts as sound deadening, naturally formed, again, baked. And then finally, mycelium, this is perhaps the most exciting, mycelium likes eating carbohydrates or hydrocarbons. And you can train it to eat oil, to eat plastic, to eat wrapping.
Why aren't the billion-pound companies doing this already?
Well, there are quite quadrillion reasons why that might not be the case. But me and my teammates are producing a process which we're hoping to license, and we're going to go for a patent on this as well, on the process rather than it.
Absolutely.
Because people have been talking about this since the late 70s. So, but what we've got to do is isolate it into if you can imagine a distant future when you've got those tugs floating around the North Atlantic, gathering up all the plastic that's out there, shoving it into huge bins which are out there, spraying it with mycelium, and then a month later releasing it back into the ocean because it's now turned into a biodegrade material, which at the very worst, marine animals can use as part of their as a host, like coral and so on, and at the best they can actually consume it.
Wow.
So what I'm doing is, you see, whatever I do on LinkedIn and however I want the people to speak better in their own voice and get heard, and it's transient. It's not 100 years after I've passed on, nobody will care.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave a legacy where I'd actually improved the world for everyone. And that's what I'm doing with Smart Mycelium. So at the moment, what we're trying to do is approach oil companies. Of course, we're not getting a lot of headway there, but I think we will do. Approaching MPs to try and get them to help champion the cause. Also, in America, would you believe it, there's an edict out from sweet Mr. Biden, which says by a certain date, people who are using single-use plastics in their packaging must have replaced them with the nearest nearest biodegradable product that they know of. And if we can show that they've seen our product by, for instance, promoting it to them on LinkedIn, then we can turn around to them and say, you need to buy it. We can prove that we exist and so on. So that's where we're going with that as well. But yes, this is going to be my effort at trying to clean up the place.
That is incredible. Honestly, that is so cool. I mean, Trinidad is a oil and gas based country economy. Yes. So, and I have quite a few contacts in that arena. So I can probably just pass them on to you, and hopefully, you can probably do something with that.
Well, the worst thing of all, would you believe it, is the worst pollutant into the oceans is partially spent diesel. The cruises that everybody loves going on are huge pollutants. And that's why in my vision, where we are getting rid of all that plastic, the pontoon where it all sits will be in the ocean. It doesn't have to go anywhere. So they have to keep chugging the material backwards and forwards and polluting the ocean even further. I just think there's so many ways we can slice this. The only worry is that there's still a focus on the use of oil and gas. There's still a focus on the production of plastics. And so, you know,
it's going to be really difficult as well, because our entire world, even the technology that we're using now, is built with plastic materials. It's built with plastic. It's built with rubber. It's built with all of the things, even the machinery. So, you know, we can go, you know, all eco-friendly, but the manufacturing process needs to start from there. But it is near to impossible to get to that point.
Well, our first client is a company called EcoForge, who are producing living walls in pots, which are at the moment are single-use plastic. So we are growing pots for them to plant in those to hang off those walls, made of mycelium. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a starting point. You've got to do something to prove.
No, you got to, absolutely. And I think if we have a lot of people who are going to have small starting points, I think eventually we'll probably crack it. But as for right now, it is just, when you look at the whole system, because it's absolutely mind-boggling for me. And I think this is probably going to end up in a very other episode, like in another episode between you and I talking about this. But, you know, it is just one of those things, when you look at the system as a whole, there's just so many moving parts in it. And I think that's where as much as big companies want to make a change. So say, for instance, a big supermarket wants to make a change.
Sure.
A supermarket that's known for wrapping every single thing in plastic. But unfortunately, they don't control where the company that sources their stuff from, they don't control that. They could only buy from the companies that they, you know, can you buy from? And it's onto that company then. But then they're sourcing it from somewhere else, probably from China. So where is that source coming from? And when you go back, it's very, very, very easy for the average person to just sit and go, oh, we need to do this and we need to do that. Yes, absolutely we do. But the process of doing it is not as simple as people think it is. It's not just as simple as, you know, you just flick your fingers and then all cars just become, you know.
It's a process. It's a process.
I've got an idea for you. Process.
I've got an idea for you, because I sense we're coming to the end of this cast. But I thought, I've got an idea. I want to flip the switch. I want to flip the tables on you, Désiré.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you questions, and then we're going to both answer the question. How about that?
Okay, let's go for it.
What's the one thing that fuels your passion, Désiré?
Ooh, I love helping people. It's the one thing that just gets me completely fired up and gets me out of bed. And that's one of the reasons why I spend so much time helping other entrepreneurs, because it is really just about helping people. I mean, this podcast is one of those things that I'm using, one of those channels to help other people. So, yeah.
Okay. So what I would say is I love helping people. I like giving people tiny course corrects, tiny little change direction that can open up huge opportunities. The things that I can see that I suppose because they're so close to the coalface, they can't.
Yeah.
Okay. If you had unlimited resources, what problem would you solve?
Unlimited resources.
Unlimited. You don't, it's there for you. Go crazy.
I would probably fix poverty.
Okay.
That would be the one thing that I would fix. And I know that it's a very complicated situation to fix, and it's not as simple as just throwing money at it. But you said unlimited resources, and it wasn't that resources isn't limited to money.
No, it's true. Because I'm mushroom mad, and I know mushrooms can be a foodstuff. I know mushrooms can also provide health benefits. We're taking powdered lion's mane at the moment, which helps with mood and anxiety.
Yeah.
So I want to use mushrooms and mycelium to fix the world. And I think we can do it. There are these guys in Japan that are currently making leather out of mushroom.
That's cool.
We're trying to get, because one of my partners is a ex-Savile Row tailor. So he's trying to get hold of some of the material. He's going to make me a waistcoat out of it. So we're going to see what we can do with that.
That's very cool.
No, okay, so now here's another one, which is kind of similar but different. If you could do anything at all.
Anything.
Yeah, what would you do right now?
If you could do F1 driver.
You would do what?
I would be an F1 driver. If I could do anything, that's what I would do. I'd drive F1 cars.
They're way too stressful for me, man. The stress is... Have you ever seen one of their steering wheels? Have you ever seen their steering wheels?
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. They're having to... It's like they're having to rub their tummy, pat their stomach, and also dance at the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
With me, I would lower the polar temperatures by 3 degrees. You'd lower the polar temperatures by 3 degrees, suddenly the world's problems diminish dramatically.
Yeah. But then that throws a lot of our ecosystem out, because our planet has a cycle, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it gets hot, and then it goes cold, and then it gets warmer, and then it gets colder.
We've artificially bounced the cycle
We've caused it a little bit, yeah. We're just making it happen faster.
Yes, exactly. What is the hardest thing that you find about the entrepreneur's journey?
That was one that we had earlier. That would have been the loneliness. The
hardest thing is the loneliness. Is that it?
It's lonely for me. That is because I don't have the typical pressures. I don't have a team, so I don't need to worry about bottom line, top line. I am incredibly.
So I have a team of 6 in one, 3 in another, and 4 in another. So yeah. I have a different set of words. All right. So for me, it's understanding how to use my autistic traits to facilitate better communication. Because I know that having those traits can be brilliant, but only if I use them right. Yeah. With great power.
Definitely your superpower.
With great power comes great responsibility. All right. Here's one that you actually asked me. I'm going to ask it back. Well, before we sign off, what parting gift of wisdom could you have for our beautiful audience? For our beautiful audience.
I think everybody needs to take a good long look at their brand. I'm so tired of seeing people out there who are just hardcore selling and not actually building their brand. They're not giving value. All you're doing is telling me to buy your shit. And that's not the way to do it. You have to build a relationship with people. I think we've lost that for social media. And, I'm
trying to clear it back. Désiré.
I know we're both trying to do it, but people are just not quite reaching us yet. So I do have a free brand audit that fixes that.
Some people aren't ready for that messaging yet. They don't realize that I get it all the time. The funniest ones is there are a few competitors. There aren't hundreds of competitors what I do, funny enough, because most people are training and I'm not really training. Yeah. I'm about facilitation. But I get hit up by a competitor saying, I've looked long and hard at your profile, they say, and I think we could really help you get more business in. And I just write them back, read the profile.
Yep.
All right.
I've got a new trick actually for that. So when I get hit up, I actually send them a link to the SME shout out hour group. I'm like, well, it was probably not the right fit for me, but I'm pretty sure somebody here might like it. And that's how I grow the following. It's through those people.
That's turning every negative a positive. Absolutely.
Yep. Point them to the SME group.
When you sent me that, you sent me over a question asking exactly what my parting gift of wisdom would be. And I thought about it and I wrote this, see if you like it. So every crisis naturally blinkers you to the possibility of success. I want you to do this. And this is anybody listening. Have a cuppa. Try and find your happy place. Then allow yourself the luxury of thinking you might succeed after all.
That is really powerful.
Take a bloody moment. Oh,
I think, do you know what? A lot of people just don't stop. They don't,
And as soon as something negative happens, that some of them just spiraling. It's all going to fall to shit. It's falling to shit. It's going. It's taking me with it. It's sucking in everything I know. Have a cuppa. Take a break. I promise you get a little bit of inspiration. You read a couple of other things. Maybe you sleep on it. You will find a way through. Tomorrow, quite literally, is another day.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Like, a bazillion %. I'm always telling people, right, relax, it's done now. Like, there's nothing you can do. Just take a breather and just chill. Take a chill pill. That's like my little slogan now.
No, but sometimes you just got to stop for a moment, because the inspiration comes in the moments between you panicking and you thinking about something else. In that stillness, in that space that you've allowed yourself, that's where. Do you know what? I could actually turn this to my advantage. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are we're just kind of stuck in that kind of hamster wheel, aren't we? And people tend to not really think about, how can they turn it around? They just go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's just a constant state of panic.
And also the assumption that because the tug has always been going that way so far, that is the way we must go.
No, just spin it round.
Be open to a course correct. Be open to taking on a new idea. Don't be so wed to the one concept because that's the way it's always been. Here's a story. A psychiatrist that I read about, I've forgotten, I think his surname's Sachs. He was relaying some stories back from psychiatry days. He once went to interview three family where 3 generations were in the same room.
Yeah.
And they were eating together. And as they sat down, they presented a meatloaf. And as she put it at the table, she then chopped off either end and discarded them. And he said, What'd you do that for? That's valuable bits of meat. She said, No, that's the best way. Why is that? Well, that's what my mother used to do. And her mother said, yeah, that's the way I've always done it. And the grandmother said, yeah, that's because my oven was only this wide. The point I'm trying to say is you can often do things again and again and again just purely because that's the way it's always been done. Not because that's the way it always has to be.
Yep. I mean, I always rethink ways of everything. Nothing is ever set in stone.
I think you need to be open to the possibility of change.
Pivot. That's my thing. Tilt it, literally.
So whenever you say pivot, of course, all I'm thinking about is Friends.
Pivot. Yep.
Terrible.
Very much.
Terrible.
All right. Well, that now concludes the Entrepreneur Spotlight. Gareth, amazing stuff as always. Thank you so much for coming on the show and being such an inspiration for all of us.
It was an honor. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for listening and joining us on this journey of strength, patience, determination, compassion, ambition, and drive. That is the core of the entrepreneur's journey. And what a journey it is, as no 2 stories are the same. If you liked what you heard today and want to connect with our guest, I've put their contact details in the show notes. Just a quick reminder, we have a daily podcast segment called The Daily Tilt and 2 weekly segments called The Entrepreneur Spotlight and The Alpha Woman Show. If you want to be a guest on the podcast or want to speak on the live show on Sundays, all of the details are on the Tilt website and the link for that is in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, share my content, and if you haven't already, please leave a 5-star review as it really helps the podcast reach more people. Have an awesome week and remember to go full tilt.